I saw Sinners, the new Ryan Coogler movie. It's like peak vampire action. It's definitely more elevated than something like From Dusk Till Dawn. It stars Michael B. Jordan, of course, in a dual role. This exceeded my expectations, I guess, because I just suspected it was going to be a decent vampire flick, right? But it turned out to be so much more. Thematically, this film is so layered and rich. It plays with like the vampire formula in a new way, but still keeps to the familiar tropes. One major thing that this movie revolves around is the idea that you have to invite a vampire in for them to join your group, your family. In this case, to come in and party with everybody, particularly a safe haven for the black folk in this 1932 Mississippi community. There's definitely a lot of subtext in here regarding white people appropriating and perhaps parasitically benefiting from the black community. But these themes are also just woven in really deftly. Focuses on this community finding place of solace, with Michael B. Jordan representing a sort of like an anti-hero dual role to try to achieve some sort of American dream, right? And the troubles that come along with that during this time period in this setting, which echoes up until today. And I think particularly with a specific musical scene, it does connect to the modern day in an almost spiritual way. As an atheist but a cinephile, I feel like cinema can be a place of some sort of spiritual connection almost, especially in the theater, have a communal experience. I think this movie will achieve that for a lot of people. The craft that went into this, and then of course particularly just the music, the score, the soundtrack, it all just like really moved me. And we've seen this particular scene, could probably agree, it kind of like sends you to a higher place. When done right, like this film, cinema can really accomplish that, unlike any other medium. I was lucky enough to view this in one of the IMAX formats, a digital IMAX, with a really good crowd, and that also just enhanced it as well. So I would definitely recommend trying to get that before it's out of theaters. Now this movie is sort of divided in almost two sections. The height of the movie really comes in the middle. That is the transition moment between this build up establishment of these characters that almost feels like the movie starts off as like a more grounded drama. And there's this grand musical performance that transcends time and space, that then connects to its more action-packed side of the story, which I think the trailers focus on more. The shooty shoots, holding up, defending against a horde of vampires. If you're coming in primarily for the action horror moments, you may just need a little bit of patience, because the opening part takes its time to really ground itself in this world, which to me isn't a bad thing, because I've enjoyed that part of the movie a lot more. That's not to say the genre heavy vampire action parts are standard, or they're much more than that. I think it does showcase the peak of this genre. I think the main faults in that later half is the editing and just the cutting together of those action sequences and transitions between key moments. There's a particular scene where there's a guy laying on the ground with what appears to be blood around him. It cuts to that shot really abruptly. There's also some other like messy cuts, I feel like, around that scene. And in general, some of the action scenes feel a bit rushed and sliced up in a way that it almost feels like they cut a lot of the film out in those segments. Although I think thematically and narratively in general, the film doesn't really compromise much in a sense of what it's trying to accomplish as an art piece. Maybe there was some pressure from the studio to cut the running time of the movie, perhaps. Although I believe Coogler was able to get final cut, so maybe not. Perhaps at a certain point in the movie, it just didn't feel as polished as it could have been. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of an issue, because I think all the high moments of the movie elevate it overall as maybe even a modern classic of the genre. And it really cements Ryan Coogler as one of the top filmmakers in Hollywood right now. So now let's maybe like go a little bit more into the spoilery moments here. So if you have not seen it, It's time to tune out unless you want to get up some spoilers. I think one of the great things about this movie and how it expands and elevates the vampire lore here and plays with it in a really fun way is how it plays with the idea that you have to invite a vampire into your home, into your party, your club, your whatever, for them to enter your space, right? Your safe space. It really plays up on this manipulative aspect of the vampire. This brings up ideas of appropriation by white people in history, but also in today's world, where we have the main vampire baddie wanting to basically absorb the memories and musical talent as well from the Sammy character. They're attracted by the music he's playing. He's so good at it. That's a big part of the lore in this movie for the vampires, that music has the power to connect with spirits from the past and the present. And though that can attract a lot of goodness, it also attracts some evil. In this case, it attracts the vampires, who represent the supernatural evil, as opposed to the more earthly evil of the racist Ku Klux Klan in this movie. The more homegrown evil. So these white vampires represent the privilege of whiteness. You know, his whole thing is like, oh, like you're gonna suffer and die to the racists that are gonna come the next morning. You know, you have no hope in this world. You might as well join the vampire crew. You know, might as well become vampire and gain your own power that way. But that's a deal with the devil. You know, you get this eternal life, but you have to kill to survive. Thematically, it's a bit murky. It does seem like potentially race isn't going to be an issue in vampire world. I guess the idea is more that it's exchanging racism with speciesism. I guess, you know, vampires versus humans. I think the highlight here is the assimilation of culture, the erasure, and also like the amoral opportunism of the vampire in this story. We see this guy running away from a group of indigenous Americans. He joins these Ku Klux Klan members because he sees them as an easy haven for him. And then it takes the white lady, Haley Steinfeld's character, to be the one to approach them. And that's how they're able to infiltrate the party. He also brings up something else to appeal to some of the more skeptical characters, that he's Irish, who's also experienced oppression, particularly from Christian England, aligning himself with his victims by saying that he's also experienced oppression, and him, like them, will never be accepted. And so the best option is just to join the vampires. But in reality, he just wants more power. He wants more memories. He wants to live this immortal, damned life apart from humanity, not with it, you know? Another key moment is almost the very end, where in this almost like vampire baptism he's doing, it's a moment where Sammy turns back towards religion and prays to find some kind of salvation, some rescue from God. But then the vampire Remick starts praying himself along with the other vampire thralls, you know, saying that prayer is the language of the oppressors who conquered his land in Ireland, but it also brought him comfort at the same time, which goes to show the messiness of spirituality and religion in people's lives. You know, how it can bring about community and a sense of well-being, but it could also be used to hurt people, to create divisions. It can be used in a vampiric way. The same as far as wanting to play the blues, because it feels like that's the devil's music. It feels like that's too far away from the word of God. While Sammy, I think, represents maybe the better path for himself. May find some of that spirituality or community within the music, the blues, you know, his passion, in opposition to the strict dogmatic worldview of his father, as well as the parasitic, power-hungry worldview of the vampires. And so, of course, it ends with Sammy in his old age, finally in a moment of peace as a content musician, even rejecting Stack's proposal to become a vampire, to keep living. Then, of course, I think the most brilliant part of this movie, this cinematic experience really, is how it connects all these themes with music. The standout scene in the movie where Sammy starts playing his song, we see spirits of the past and present perform alongside him. We get electric guitar, we get DJs on the turntable. We get people twerking. I see how it could feel a little bit jarring and feel out of place to some people watching, but I think it does it so well. It ties back to the opening lore dump in the beginning about music connecting with the past and present spirits, and just it's shot so well. Maybe also like especially in a nice theater with a nice sound system and everything, and in the big screen, it really transports you. It felt really magical. I appreciate when period pieces connect to modern times. I feel like often when we see a period film, as an audience, we kind of think about, oh, that's just something that happened in the past. We're in a better moment now. That was just the past. There's racism is in the past, you know. To literally connect it with the present is just a reminder, like, hey, like these evil spirits are still lurking, and the ramifications of history, you know, continue to today. And putting aside the thematical, philosophical, spiritual, political aspects of that scene, it just feels good. And it comes at the very height of the movie. Like that is where I feel like the movie is at its peak. Then it kind of comes back down to the more standard vampire action scenario, but still with a lot of standout moments. Also including music, like the moment where the vampire does his Irish river dancing. This one's more of like a horror demonic mirror image of the hopeful juke party. As the action progresses, it gets a little messy with the cuts, and there's always those moments where they're fighting off a horde and like certain characters are shooting, but then there's moments where it feels like, wait, why is no one attacking them? Oh, because they have to do a specific action, or they have to say something, they have to talk to somebody, they have to grieve. Sometimes feels a little bit contrived, that like, why aren't they in more of a hurry? I feel like it just didn't live up to the quality of the first half. And then the ending moment where Smoke shoots up the racist was cathartic. It was nice, but I feel like it leaned a little bit too much into the generic action movie. I didn't see the trailers going in, and I was so mesmerized by the tone of the first part of the movie. I guess it just felt jarring to me as the action picked up. The other thing I would have done differently is not have the opening kind of spoil that Sammy is gonna be scratched up and come back with a broken guitar. A lot of movies do that, where they have like an ending moment in the beginning of the movie, and it's like 5 years before or a year before or whatever, and like, or the day before. I think that can work sometimes, but I feel more often than not, it's probably just better to not even include that. I think I would have liked it more not knowing that something was coming. There's still so much suspense going on about if the vampires are going to get in, how are they going to get in. It would have been nice to not know if he survived or not, you know. It's just made this movie more conventional than I wanted. That does clash a bit with a lot of what was shown in the early part of the movie. But yeah, Sinners is great. You know, it's both great fun and layered, meaningful commentary as well. You know, that is subtle enough to be understood, but doesn't overtake the entertainment factor, I guess. And it may just be a fuck you experience to Hollywood, because there has been some executives complaining about Sinners because Coogler got a rare deal where I think after 25 years, all the rights go back to Coogler. So some big wigs think it's detrimental to Hollywood because it sets a precedence for other directors to ask for the same thing. And then, oh no, boo-hoo, big old studios won't be able to profit off of the works of artists from decades ago. Here's an idea. Just keep making new movies, you know? Let artists have a comfortable retirement. Damn. Sinners. Yeah, I feel like it's definitely a movie that can percolate in the years to come as we collectively dance and sing at the juke joint known as cinema. And those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. I'll be here waiting under the moonlight for the next video. See you later. Bye bye.